Hey guys, so today I actually have a special reading for you today. Um, you're not going to read, I'm going to read it. Okay. And this is a letter from Sam Houston to DG Burnett when they talked about the decisive battle at San Jacinto that secured independence for Mexico. Okay, because today is April 21st and it has now been 184 years since this happened. So here we go. I'm going to read this to you and enjoy. Okay, letter from Sam Houston, headquarters of the Army, San Jacinto, 25th April 1836. That's when the letter arrived. Okay, to His Excellency DG Burnett, President of the Republic of Texas. Sir, I regret extremely that my situation since the Battle of the 21st has been such as to prevent my rendering you my official report of the same previous to this time. I have the honor to inform you that on the evening of the 18th of April, after a forced march of 55 miles, which was effected in 2 days and a half, the army arrived opposite Harrisburg. That evening, a courier of the enemy was taken from who I learned that General Santa Anna, with one division of his choice troops, had marched in the direction of Lynch's Ferry on the San Jacinto, burning Harrisburg as he passed down. The army was ordered to be in readiness to march early on the next morning. The main body effected a crossing over Buffalo Bayou below Harrisburg on the morning of the 19th, have left the baggage, the sick, and the sufficient camp guard in the rear. We continued the march throughout the night, making but one halt in the prairie for a short time and without refreshments. At daylight, we resumed the line of march, and in the distance, our scouts encountered those of the enemy, and we received information that General Santa Anna was at New Washington and would that day take up his line of march for Anahuac, crossing at Lynch's. The Texian army halted within half a mile of the ferry in some timber and were engaged in slaughtering beeves, which are cows, when the army of General Santa Anna was discovered to be approaching in battle array, having been encamped at Cloppers, .8 miles below. Disposition was immediately made for our forces in preparation for his reception. He took a position with his infantry and artillery in the center, occupying an island of timber, his cavalry covering the left flank. Their artillery then opened upon our encampment, consisting of one double fortified medium brass 12-pounders. And you can actually see that. I don't know if you can see that here, actually. Hold on. Yeah, you can see that right here. Those are the 12-pounders. Okay, here we go. The infantry in columns advanced with the design of charging our lines, but were repulsed by a discharge of grape and canister from our artillery, consisting of two 6-pounders. The enemy had occupied a piece of timber within rifle shot of the left wing of our army, from which an occasional interchange of small arms took place between the troops, until the enemy withdrew to a position on the bank of the San Jacinto, about 3/4 of a mile from our encampment, and commenced a fortification. A short time before sunset, our mounted men, about 85 in number, under the special command of Colonel Sherman, marched out for the purpose of reconnoitering the enemy, which means just reconnaissance, recon, right? Spying. Okay. Whilst advancing, they received a volley from the left of the enemy's infantry, and after a sharp rencontre, the cavalry, in which ours acted extremely well and performed some feats of daring chivalry, they retired in good order, having had 2 men severely wounded and several horses killed. In the meantime, the infantry, under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Millard and Colonel Burleson's regiment, with the artillery, had marched out for the purpose of covering the retreat of the cavalry if necessary. All then fell back in good order to our encampment about sunset, and remained without any ostensible action until the 21st at 3:30. taking the first refreshment which they had enjoyed for 2 days. So there's actually a kind of a map. I don't know how well we can see it though. Hold on. Here's a picture of the map. Okay, I know it's hard to see. Maybe I'll post a picture of it. The enemy, in the meantime, having extended the right flank of their infantry so as to occupy the extreme points of a skirt of timber on the bank of the San Jacinto, and secured their left by a fortification about 5 feet high, constructed of packs and baggage, leaving an opening in the center of the breastwork in which their artillery was placed. Their cavalry upon their left wing, about 9 o'clock in the morning of the 21st, the enemy were reinforced by 500 choice troops under the command of General Cos, increasing their effective force to upwards of 1,500 men, while our aggregate or total force for the field numbered 783, so about half. At 3:30 in the evening, I ordered the officers of the Texian army to parade their respective commands, having in the meantime ordered the bridge on the only road communicating with the Brazos, distant 8 miles from our encampment, to be destroyed, thus cutting off all possibility of escape. Our troops paraded with spirit and were anxious for the contest. Their conscious disparity in numbers only seemed to increase their confidence and heighten their anxiety for the conflict. Our situation afforded us an opportunity of making the arrangements preparatory to the attack without exposing our designs to the enemy. The first regiment, commanded by Colonel Burleson, was assigned the center. The second regiment, under the command of Colonel Sherman, formed the left wing of the army. The artillery, under the special command of Colonel Geo W. Hockley, Inspector General, was placed on the right of the first regiment, and 4 companies of infantry, under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Henry Millard, sustained the artillery upon the right. Our cavalry, 61 in number, commanded by Colonel Mirabeau B. Lamar, whose gallant and daring conduct on the previous day had attracted the admiration of his comrades and called him to that station, placed on our extreme right, completed our line. Remember Mirabeau B. Lamar. We're going to talk about him later, actually. Our cavalry was first dispatched to the front of the enemy's left for the purpose of attracting their notice, whilst our extensive island of timber afforded us an opportunity of concentrating our forces and displaying from that point agreeable to the previous design of the troops. Every evolution was performed with the whole advancing rapidly in line and through an open prairie without any protection whatsoever for our men. The artillery advanced and took station within 200 yards of the enemy's breastwork and commenced an effective fire with grape and canister. Colonel Sherman, with his regiment, having commenced the action upon our left wing, the whole line at the center and on the right, advancing in double quick time, sung the war cry, "Remember the Alamo," received the enemy's fire, and advanced within point blank shot before a piece was discharged from our lines. Our line advanced without a halt until they were in position of the woodland and the enemy's breastwork. Okay, I'm like halfway through, so if you want to take a break, pause it right here and go take a break for a few minutes, and then I'm going to keep reading, okay? All right, welcome back. The right wing of Burleson's and the left of Millard's take possession of the breastwork, our artillery having gallantly charged up within 70 yards of the enemy's cannon, where it was taken by our troops. The conflict lasted about 18 minutes from the time of close action until we were in possession of the enemy's encampment, taking 1 piece of cannon, which was loaded, 4 stand of colors, all of their camp equipage, stores, and baggage. Our cavalry had charged and routed that of the enemy upon the right and given pursuit to the fugitives, which did not cease until they arrived at the bridge which I have mentioned before, Captain Carnes, always among the foremost in danger, commanding the pursuers. The conflict in the breastwork lasted but a few moments. Many of the troops encountered hand to hand, and not having the advantage of bayonets on our side, our riflemen used their pieces as war clubs, breaking many of them off at the breach. So, what he means there is they use their rifles basically as a club. Okay. The rout commenced at 4:30, and the pursuit by the main army continued until twilight. A guard was then left in charge of the enemy's encampment, and our army returned with our killed and wounded. In the battle, our loss was 2 killed and 23 wounded, 6 of whom mortally. The enemy's loss was 630 killed, among which 1 general officer, 4 colonels, 2 lieutenant colonels, 5 captains, and 12 lieutenants. They had wounded 208, of which 5 were colonels, 2 lieutenant colonels, 2 second lieutenant colonels, 7 captains, and 1 cadet. Prisoners, 730. President General Santa Anna, General Cos, 4 colonels' aides to General Santa Anna, and 6 lieutenant colonels, the private secretary of General Santa Anna, and the colonel of the Guerrero Battalion are included in the number of prisoners. General Santa Anna was not taken until the 22nd, and General Cos on yesterday. Very few escaped. About 600 muskets, 300 sabers, and 200 pistols have been collected since the action. Several hundred mules and horses were taken, and near $12,000 in specie. For several days previous to the action, our troops were engaged in forced marching, exposed to excessive rains and the additional inconvenience of extremely bad roads, illy supplied with rations and clothing. Yet, amid every difficulty, they bore up with cheerfulness and fortitude, and performed their marches with spirit. There was no murmuring. Previous to and during the action, whenever he says action, he's talking about the battle, my staff evinced every disposition to be useful and were actively engaged in their duties. In the action, I am assured that they demeaned themselves in such manner as proved them worthy members of the army of San Jacinto. Colonel T.J. Rusk, Secretary of War, was on the field. For weeks, his services had been highly beneficial to the army. In battle, he was in the left wing where Colonel Sherman's command first encountered and drove the enemy. He bore himself gallantly and continued his efforts and activity, remaining with the pursuers until resistance ceased. I have the honor of transmitting herewith a list of all the officers and men who were engaged in the action, which I respectfully request may be published as an act of justice to the individuals. For the commanding generals to attempt discrimination as to the conduct of those who were commanded in the action or those who were commanded would be impossible. Our success in the action is conclusive proof of their daring, intrepidity, and valor. Every officer and man proved himself worthy of the cause in which he battled, while the triumph received a luster from the humanity which characterized their conduct after victory and richly entitles them to the administration and gratitude of their general. Nor should we withhold the tribute of our grateful thanks from that being who rules the destinies of nations and has, in the time of greatest need, enabled us to arrest a powerful invader whilst devastating our country. And that's the end. Here, I have another picture to show you. Okay, so this is the surrender of Santa Anna. Okay. Anyway, Hope you enjoyed the reading. All right, you guys have a great day. If you need anything, jump on the Zoom, come visit me. Bye.